How's it going, John?
Oh, it's going good. It's going good. It is nice to be able to breathe outside.
Oh, yeah. Fresh
The
air, rain.
rain is lovely.
Yeah, before it started to rain, got out for a nice bike ride and been on a few walks and enjoyed what Oregon normally is. So, highly
Right.
recommend.
Some nice, high 60s, low 70s degree weather.
That's
Comfortable,
right.
pleasant, perfectly nice. Yeah, we had, I think it was last Friday was the first time it rained. Like it rained and, kind of got some weather, pushed out the smoke. I don't know. I assume that a lot of it was precipitated in the rain, but it was nice to be able to get out for the weekend and do work outside. So,
Yeah.
which one of the fun things I got to do this weekend, I felt a little tiny bit guilty because I probably shouldn't say what I think always completely out loud. But a friend of mine, a friend of ours actually, was going to be putting in some concrete, and he called me up and he was like, "Hey, have you ever done concrete before?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "Neither have I, but I've watched some YouTube videos." And I'm like, "I've watched YouTube videos of it too." So he said, well, you want to come up and help me out? And I was like, I would love to learn on your dime, which, I don't know. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, he got a bunch of free labor. I learned a bunch of things, and it turned out pretty good, I think. He did tell me
Yeah.
that we sort of made one mistake, which was that we should have let the concrete on half of the pad. It was like a 10-foot by 40-foot pad, so it was pretty long, pretty big.
Right.
And the one side of it, the side we started on, dried and was a good consistency to do the brush finish and everything else. And we kind of probably rushed it. We did the whole thing, and the near end, we should have probably waited another, 20 minutes or half hour for it to dry a little more. But anyway, he said it. I haven't seen it, but he said it came out nice, and I learned a lot, and I was excited about that. It was awesome. I don't have a specific concrete project around my place at the moment, but I think that I will at some point in the future. So,
and now you know how to do it.
And now I know how to do it. Yeah. So that was fun, and that was awesome. So how about you? Did you do anything else fun this week?
Oh, aside from kind of getting out,
Bike rides. That's awesome.
Yeah, I did do a 3D printing project, which after I had designed everything and went to lay it out for my printer, which has a much larger build volume than my old one does, even it was too big. So
really?
I had to cut it. So I have it's a cylindrical air purifier that
Okay.
I had actually got before the whole fires thing. I figured if I'm going to be in my basement in the office with multiple children doing school and work, sharing a room, that maybe I ought to have an air purifier. So a couple of months ago, I got one, but it needs to be away from the wall about 1.5 to 2 feet. It recommends to have it kind of in the middle of a room. Well, I'm not going to put it in the middle of my office permanently. So I thought, well, I should go get, those little, almost like a little piano dolly, but miniature, something to set it on with wheels.
They have those for planters.
Yeah, exactly. For planters, you roll it back and forth, out and away. And so I thought, and then of course I thought, you know what? I could design one that fits exactly right. And so I did. It took 3 printings. They were 13-hour prints each. And the first print, I had an error where the wheels screw in. I did not make my holes large enough. So I thought, well, I'll just print another one.
Again instead of drilling them out.
Yeah, well, it was a square.
It's probably easier to drill them out than it is to if you made them too big to make them smaller.
Well, yeah, but then it would get into the interior structure, the crosshatch, so it doesn't have the wall. Anyways, so I probably could have cut them out a little bit, but it was the one that was too large. So I had it looks kind of funny. I could show you. It's a cylinder with kind of chunks taken out, small little wedges taken out of four sides, so that it could fit on the square. The circle didn't quite fit in the square peg. Yeah, so I had to trim the circle to fit in the square peg. So that's what I did for the first one, and the second one I just made it smaller because it didn't need to be as big as it was. And the first two, the second one I printed, everything worked except I had printed it for 3 wheels because in my brain I thought I only need 3 wheels because then there won't be one wheel that's slightly off the ground that rattles,
Okay.
But the 3-wheeled version was when I would try to push the air purifier over, was too tipsy. Yeah. So I redesigned a third time, and did a 4th wheel. And that one works, but one of the wheels, of course, is not on the ground and gets a little shaky. So I have another little tiny wedge that I set up against the wheel that's shaky so that it doesn't rattle. But the biggest frustration with that one was the size of it. And I was trying to print the second one. I tried to print with ABS. The other problem with the second one was about 13 hours into the 13.5-hour print, it had actually started to warp where it pulled the actual build plate, the magnetic build plate, up in a corner. And so I had to, this is like midnight the other night. I'm watching it, and I'm glad I was watching it because it would have been bad had I not been paying attention. So there were some additional design changes for the third one to make sure that, anyways, it's a long story that I've gone too far on now. But that was my exciting fun this weekend, was designing and printing and then waiting for 14 hours each print. So 3 times 14, that's how long. Although 2 of the prints were while I was at work too. So it was just chugging along during the day.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It takes, you don't need to count the time that you're asynchronously doing something else. It just, turns up and works.
Eventually it's finished, but it looks cool now, and that's
awesome.
It's
so
on my thing, and I can push it to the side. I just went to Ace Hardware and got little casters. They have, it's like a square pad with a wheel that's on the ball bearings. So you screw the 4 screws in on the square, and that was what was too small. I had measured it exact dimensions, and by the time I did the third one, I added enough edge space, and I had created screw holes so that it would screw into solid plastic as opposed to just the checkerboard that is the infill. So anyways, it was fun.
Nice. Wow, that's cool.
Probably cost way much more in time than just going and doing one for a plant, but a lot more fun.
Yeah. Well, so I had 2 other kind of, I don't know, sort of things from this weekend, for me at least. They're kind of purchasing things though. The first of which is I bought myself, I pre-ordered, I should say, an Apple Watch. They announced them last week. So I don't have it yet. I know the people that jumped on it right away got the early shipments, and I did not because I hemmed and hawed and was like, but eventually I went ahead and decided to do it because I'm sporting a 3, which is, I guess 3
2 years old
versions old now because this is the 6 that's coming out.
Yeah.
And
right.
So I've got the old and smaller. Anyway, ironically, so Apple last week announced 3 new Apple Watches. Well, they announced that they will have 3 versions of the Apple Watch. The new 6, which is the one that I think the main thing they added to it was the pulse oximeter from a a health sensor
measure your
version.
Yeah.
But it's also supposedly It's got the always on screen and it's brighter in daylight. Evidently, that was one of the complaints from the 5 was that, yeah, it's on, but if you looked at it without it being activated, you couldn't actually read it because it was so dim, in sunlight at least.
As an owner of a 5, and probably because I live in Oregon where there's not persistent heavy sunshine, I never had that problem. I don't ever remember looking at my watch going, I wish it was brighter.
Okay, well, that's nice.
I have looked at the watch and gone, I wish it would come out of little sleep mode faster. But that's about it. I mean, I can see what's on the screen, but it takes a second to then re-brighten, and then you can interact with it. Right. That's really my biggest... I hope that's faster.
Well, if ever we're able to be back in the office or we meet for lunch or something like that, we can practice like activating our watches,
flipping the wrist,
and see which one. But I'm sure the 6 is faster.
Watch race.
They got a different CPU in it, which will be cool. Anyway, so I'm excited about that because I bypassed the 4 and I bypassed the 5. And, it's kind of been one of those things that the watch does most of what the watch does for me at the moment. And, but one of the other interesting things, and this is totally a software feature though, not a hardware feature, is that they've added sleep tracking, into sort of the first party software. And I've been using, Sleep++ from, _ David Smith for a long time at this point for doing sleep tracking. And, it's not like I do anything with the data except that I like to have data. It's cool.
Yeah.
And then I go through and I look and I'm like, well, yeah, I should probably sleep more is what it comes down to. But that's okay. Anyway, so that's the one thing. And then, kind of a funny and frustrating thing was I was at Lowe's again this past week. And must have been Sunday because I needed
first time or the second time.
Well, first time.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, it was an opportunistic Lowe's visit because we were actually going to pick up a prescription because my son had his wisdom teeth out. My older boy had his wisdom teeth out last week.
Oh.
And so anyway, we were going to pick up a prescription. And since it's right across the street from Lowe's, I was like, hey, I kind of need an air hose. Let me stop at Lowe's and see if they have it. And the frustrating thing is that I totally want to support local, even, I know Lowe's isn't a local store, but I'm happy to support the people that work there are awesome. They just half the time, not half the time, less than half the time, because most of the time I'm going for a very specific thing to finish and work on a project. And many things are big, but too much of the time I'm better off just ordering off of Amazon. And this was the case here. I needed a 10-foot, 3/8 inch inlet hose to go from some ducting in my wall in my shop, basically, to I put up one of those retractable hose reels up on the ceiling. I hung it from the rafters, and I'm like, I need a 10-foot air hose. I don't need a 50-foot because then what am I going to do with 50 feet in the rafters? I need a 10-foot hose, and you can buy one off of Amazon. So it was one of those situations where I went in, couldn't find it, asked the person. He's like, no, I don't know. We can look online if you want. I'm like, no, thank you. And then I had punched by the time I walked back out to the car. But, whatever. It actually arrived today, so I'm not sure if I'll have a chance to install it tomorrow or if it'll have to wait to the weekend, but
I hope it actually is what it says it was, because while we were preparing tonight, I was unpacking a box of an Amazon purchase I got. My office is 3 different colors of blue, and then the acoustic, squares for the wall and whatnot. So I thought it would be cool to get a large size LED clock that was in blue.
Okay. Yeah.
So that, and I could just have that high up on the wall, pretty high up, because it's large and it's bright and it's LED, but it has the time and it has the temperature, so I know how warm it is in the room because,
Okay.
anyways, and the date. So I just glance and see, it's an office clock,
But it'll
it's
work
large and
with
it's LED.
the overall office decor, which is very blue.
Yes, yes. And
And
so I pull it out and it actually is blue, so that's not the disappointing thing. The disappointing thing is in the description and everything, it talked about having battery. And I guess I need to go back and reread it, but the battery is a battery backup, not actually battery run. So I actually have to now run
because you don't want a cord going up your wall.
Yeah, I don't want a cord going up the wall, but so that was my disappointment. But for like the $13, I think it was, it's like, do I actually box it up and return it for $13?
Yes,
or do I find a different place in the office? Because it won't work sitting on a desk. It is way too large and bright to be
Right.
I actually have it sitting over in a corner right now to see how I like it over in a corner, and I'm 12 feet away from it, and it's bright.
Well, so not something that would be running off of a battery.
No, not something that would run off a battery anyways. So,
Well, I don't.
But maybe that'll be one of my other projects: is find out what the power consumption actually is, and then figure out how to kind of maybe figure out how to hook it up to a battery pack, and see how long a battery pack would last. If it'll last a week, that might be cool. I could just pull the battery pack off once a week and charge it and then plug it back in. I don't know. We'll see. But
do you have, I assume you have one of those, what are the thing? You plug it into the wall and then you plug something into it and it'll tell you how much power it's drawing.
Yeah, kilowatt.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, I have one of those. So, like I said, I just barely unboxed it and set it all up. I have not thrown away the box to send back to Amazon, just on the off chance, but I will probably end up keeping it and just figure out a different place to put it. Because I kind of like it. It's kind of cool. Maybe I'll use it not in my office, but in another part of the basement, which is also the same blue theme. So we'll see.
Okay. Well, you're reminding me that I have a partial return in play that is they still haven't sent, or I haven't received the thing yet. I tweeted something a couple of weeks ago about, I bought some batteries off of Amazon that, have like a couple of typos on them, that they're, right. they're, the thing is that they're not A's, B's, C's, D's. They're not normal batteries in the, our normal parlance, but, they're not uncommon. I don't know if they're like a Japanese battery or something. I don't know. Anyway, I don't even remember the name of them. I'd have to look on my Amazon orders to see what it was, but it was for a high powered flashlight that we bought. Oh, I don't know. I bought a last Christmas or something like that. And but they needs more power for the batteries. But the batteries that came with the flashlight weren't rechargeable, so they died not too long ago. And I'm like, well, let me get some rechargeable ones, which are the ones that had the typos. And I was like, yeah, this is going to be fine. But so it turns out, like literally the first time I recharged, I think it came with 8 batteries. I recharged 2 of them, and then I recharged the second pair, and then I had to pull the charger, which is just like this little tiny black thing, that plugs straight into the wall. I pull it out of the wall, and one of the prongs stayed in the wall socket. And I'm like, okay, we got super high quality here. So anyway, I tried to, I did the whole Amazon.
So you went and got a fork and kind of weaseled the thing out of the plug, right?
I was not dumb enough to touch it. So fortunately for me, probably it was on it was on one of those power, I don't know, power multipliers, like you plug it in, and instead of having 2 power outlets, it plugs into both of those, and then it gives you 6.
Oh, right.
except
Right.
that
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
of those that you actually take the plate off and you replace
The
the
faceplate off.
plate
Yeah.
with this, so it has a screw going through the middle of it. And so I went and got a
Right.
screwdriver and carefully unscrewed the thing without touch. And so I pulled the faceplate off, and then I got a pair of pliers and pulled it out. And anyway,
There you go.
so I was safe, but I was like not. Anyway, but they were like, "Oh, it doesn't sound like you need new batteries or anything. We can just send you a new charger." I was like, "That would be fine. I'm okay with that." But that's been like 2 weeks,
Yep.
so I should check up on that. All right, TMI. I should probably cut
Nice.
that part out, but we'll see. All right, we should get to the security part of this. Otherwise, this is just a John and Eric talk about their life podcast.
Well, this is about where I'm pretty sure my mom turns it off, so that's fine.
It's all good. It's all good. Well, I threw 2 things in follow-up tonight, actually.
All right.
Don't have to dwell on these too much, but the first was last week. My topic was Zerologon, the bug in NetLogon that you could was a very bad one. So the DHS did put out an emergency directive to all government agencies that they had to patch for Zerologon by this past Monday, 9/21. So it was kind of I've read a couple of these before. I read this one a little bit more, but very explicit directives to the CIOs of the different agencies saying that they basically had to fill in this form and confirm and attest to the fact that all systems have been patched, etc. So I wonder if some of those forms are public. I'm sure they aren't because they'd probably have exceptions or what isn't. But anyway, that was the first thing. And again, hopefully everyone's work systems are patched. But if not, go patch.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen any exploits pop to the news or anything like that yet, but I would not surprise me. And then my second follow-up is actually from a few episodes ago, at least. In episode 140, we talked about how China was banning the use of TLS 1.3. Right. And Russia is now joining suit. So there's this is a ZDNet article from Catalan, I think, that says basically, Russia has a draft piece of legislation that's currently open for public comment in Russia about banning the use of TLS. Are they also doing DNS over HTTP and DNS over TLS and ESNI? The title says it, but yeah. So I love the comment in the tweet. Guess there's no better endorsement for a technology than China and Russia banned us. So there you go. A little bit of shade. And then the other 2 interesting things. I mean, I'm not a Russia expert in any way, shape, or form, but the 2 quotes out of the article that I pulled out that I thought would be interesting was, so here it says, Russia doesn't use a national firewall system, but the Moscow regime relies on a system called SORM that allows law enforcement to intercept internet traffic for law enforcement purposes right at the source in telco data centers. And then, of course, the reason for doing this is with TLS 1.3, DNS over HTTPS, DNS over TLS, and ESNI gaining adoption, all of Russia's current surveillance and censorship tools will become useless as they rely on having access to the website identifiers that leak from encrypted web traffic. So, right. That's 4 different pieces of technology that are named there, but, DNS over HTTPS and DNS over TLS are 2 improved DNS or domain name server protocols. So normally when you try to go to google.com or some website, the first thing that has to happen is, your computer has to say, hey, what's the actual address for google.com? And that's done over domain name system or domain naming systems, or DNS. And, that's what gets you your address resolution. But if you do DNS over HTTPS, then you can't tell, or DNS over TLS, you can't tell what domains are being asked for because they're encrypted. So, a listener on the wire can't say, oh, I see that, John's trying to go to some website he doesn't want us to know about .com. We'll log that. So, and, there's more than just getting around censorship and things like this. The ISPs track and sell data for where people are going, et cetera. I mean, these are generally good for privacy purposes. But anyway, so just Russia's joining China in that particular thing. So there's follow up from episode 140.
Yeah.
So check it out.
All right. Well, I am trying something different for a topic.
Okay.
It's actually kind of something fun for a topic.
But is it really fun, or is it one of those, well, here's my something fun that's not really fun?
Well, I thought it was fun because I knew part of this, but I didn't know the other parts of it.
Okay. What
so
don't I know?
This article is about a new technique spammers are using to evade detection. And I think everybody knows that when you want to go somewhere on the web, you'll type in google.com or whatever, right? You punch in a name. But also, I think probably almost equally as common, a lot of people know, well, those names resolve to a number, like 1.1.1.1 or 1.2.3.4, whatever it is, those domain values actually resolve to some number. And so you can also go to 1.1.1.1, HTTP, you can type in 1.1.1.1 in your browser and it will go somewhere as well. You don't need to type in the name.
Okay, of course.
What is new-ish, which I wasn't aware, and I put some samples in there up above. John, if you want to...
You want me to click on these links?
Well, I didn't make them links because I think they're actually not legitimate links according to the Google Docs note. But if you just grab one, throw it in the browser, it's not malicious. It's not scary.
You're going to Rickroll me.
No, I actually didn't Rickroll you this time. And I think it'll go to, hey, we can't see the cert, but go look at the cert.
Your connection is not private. All right. Look at the cert. There we go. Advanced certificate. There we go. Ha. Look at that. That's at McAfee.com.
Yeah. So the trick here is you can actually use hexadecimal values. So you can go HTTPS : whack whack and a hex value, which the hex value be the hex of the number value.
Uh-huh.
So 0x01010101 will go to Cloudflare's, DNS 1.1.1.1, right? And the other thing you can do is not only hexadecimal, you can do octal values. So if you punch in the octal numbers there, it'll work. Or as well, if you punch in the integer value, which I think... Can websites start with numbers? I know they can have numbers at the end. I don't know if domain names can start with numbers or not. Maybe they can. But
hold on. 1password.com is a...
Okay, so it's okay to start with numbers. Yeah, so 1password.com is legal. So, but you can actually convert that, 8.8.8.8 or that IP dotted quad, they refer to it as, into an integer. And you can go to HTTPS : whack, and that is legitimate RFC 791. Oh, I don't have the article in front of it. 791, I think. RFC 791 values. So
I did not know this.
I knew the hex. I think I knew the hexadecimal one because I think I had played around with this a while ago. But I did not know you could also convert it to octal or an octal dotted quad. Or the integer value.
I didn't know you could do an octal quad.
Yeah. So, anyways, the article is now spammers are using some of these techniques, and it's actually not new. It's been seen elsewhere before, but apparently there's an uptick in spammer groups using these kind of techniques to bypass spam detection, right? Because the point of a spam email is to send as much volume as possible, because at least some portion will get past spam filters. And this is just a new trick to get past the spam filters.
Right.
Yeah. So I thought this was interesting, both from the I didn't know you could do that section, and that, hey, this is yet another way that people can get around. So if you are looking in your website or click a link in a URL and it looks like random gibberish, 0xD83AC74E kinds of things, that actually can resolve to spamwebsite.com or something like that. So,
wow.
Hopefully you're already not clicking on, the numerous pharmaceutical ads that show up in your spam folder. But I wonder if this is an uptick in just general malicious use, or if this is just a spam use that is temporary or recycled. I don't know which one it is at this point, but I thought it was kind of a cool evasion technique and something to keep an eye on. So
no, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Boy, just related to spam, or maybe this is more phishing than spam. And I guess in that case, it's also smishing. What do they call the SMS? Is it
right?
Smishing?
Yes, smishing.
Well, so like two
SMS
things have happened
spam
to me in the last week. At least they seem to have picked up in the last week. Is I keep getting calls on FaceTime from numbers that I don't know and don't recognize. And so I haven't answered any of them, but they are annoying me. And I'm surprised that the setting for don't, silence unknown callers doesn't also work for FaceTime. Maybe there's another setting in there that I need to go do. I don't know. But
I didn't know that.
That's been an annoying thing. Well, hopefully I am not the leading wave. Hopefully I'm just silly and I have not set a setting. So I will do that tonight. I will go see if there's another setting in there, because that's kind of driving me a little crazy. But then the second thing, and this kind of almost made my day the other day, was I get these. I've gotten a couple of these SMS messages. They're the ones that are like, this is the USPS. Your package has been delayed. Please click this link. Or
right.
One of them was your voicemail. You've received a voicemail. Click here to receive it, or that kind of stuff. And I'm like, most people have no recourse for this. Many people would probably click on it. Don't do that. Hopefully, a lot of people will recognize it's phishing, not click on it, and just ignore it. But I could do one better, because I work for a company that has URL filtering. So this is a very slow way. And I mean, the URL team is busy with a million things, and I know that they're categorizing sites all the time. But I can guarantee that personally, the ones that smish me are getting reported and getting actioned on. So anyway. I that was just a small minor, like, fight the system, or except it's not fighting the system. It's like fighting the bad guys. But I'm like, bring it on, text me. See if you can get me to click on one of those things. 'Cause I try not to be cocky, but, that was just a minor, like, triumph in my last week that I'm like, okay, that's good.
Yeah. I always get freaked out by the new, like, if you hover over a link, it starts to download and show you a preview of the link before you actually click through. That drives me nuts. I want to figure out where to turn that off on my phone, because I'll be scrolling through something, and if I just happen to rest my thumb in the wrong spot, it'll start showing a preview of a site. And I know that I've done that on some random website that I did not want to let know that I am clicking whatever they're selling. I'm not buying.
Right.
So anyways.
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
There you go. That's my
a
fun topic.
That's
educational fun.
That's a
and
great
with
topic.
a little bit of spamming. With a little bit of spam.
All right, I have 2 topics. Boy, we're gonna go long tonight, so it's okay. It's my turn to edit. So my first topic is another one of those side channel or data exposure, inadvertent data exposure, I guess, apps. So this was an article in Bleeping Computer on the Strava app, which is a running app, and we talked about a similar app. Well, it's not a running app, but it was the Untapped app that let you log your beers, and then you could see what other people logged beers and where they did. If you didn't turn on privacy settings, and that exposed logging of things on military bases and overseas sensitive areas, etc. And this Strava app is also responsible for the activity data that was published a couple of years ago in 2018, where people realized. Do you remember this one? Where they were like, oh, gee, look at all these loops that people are running outside this particular area. This is an area of a lot of fitness related folks in a very odd and strange place. It's a military
in the middle
base.
Of the desert in Nevada, huh?
Well, and it wasn't just U.S. It was Turkey and Russia, and there's all sorts of In fact, I think the app, or maybe more of it, were banned afterwards. I didn't go relook, but that was my recollection. Anyway, so the same app, and they have this feature called Flyby. But so basically on, this was just a couple days ago, there's this guy tweets, I was out running this morning on a new route, and this lady runs past me. Despite only passing, when I got home, Strava automatically tagged her in my run. And then here's the rest of the quote. If I click on her face, it shows her full name, picture, and a map of her running route, which effectively shows where she lived. So essentially, just running the app, having it track your run, and running past somebody would give you the option to see all sorts of stuff about them. And essentially what this comes down to is privacy settings, right? Well, also terrible features, but terrible features with terrible privacy settings. So it says and I've never used this app, but it says Flyby is a Strava feature that lets cyclists and runners play back their recorded activity and see others near them on a map and timeline. And essentially, the default setting is to share your activity with all nearby people. So this is kind of like one of those contact tracing apps where, anybody who's near you, except it's just give them all your data. So
I don't understand why I would ever want to share anything I'm doing with random people nearby. Maybe friends, sure, but random people,
right?
I don't understand. This is old man here, right? I suppose, but
right. Right. So yeah, and for many of these types of privacy settings, they'll have 3 settings. Me or don't share it, my friends, and everyone, and then a good default would be either me or my friends. But in this particular case. And like I said, I don't know this feature, so maybe it's useless if you don't have it on. But the only 2 settings are everyone and no one. And if you choose no one, it's not even yourself. So basically, it completely disables the feature, which seems a little weird to me in that if you're just, anyway, presuming
Isn't
that it's tracked everywhere you've been, why couldn't you do the Flyby just with your own data? It feels to me, and this is mostly from a position of ignorance, that those settings are chosen to make it so that it encourages you to turn it on for everyone. because then they can get more data and, get virality. I don't know.
Yeah, we're really living Minority Report
right
anymore. So
anyway, so that was the first thing, which, I guess an action that people could do is anytime you're picking up a new app and you're trying it out, go look at the settings and see
change the privacy settings.
If there's privacy settings, and like, you should not assume. Well, maybe I'll turn it around and say you should assume that the app makers have defaulted you to the worst possible defaults.
Or to the, I would have phrased that as the app makers will default it to the ones that are most conducive to their app and the popularity of their app, as opposed to what's most important to you as a singular human.
Yes.
It's if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. How does that phrase go?
Something like that.
Yeah. Something like that. That's what it reminds me of. Anyways. So
go in and, set everything to private.
Yeah.
Set everything to private. But yeah, you're right. This is, no, it's not just old man territory. It's sensible territory. Dagnabbit. Get off my lawn. Okay. So, all right. My second article is, this is actually something that somebody down at work pointed out to me, although I had seen it. I wasn't sure I was going to talk about it, but it's definitely worth mentioning. This was...
Yeah.
Did you see it?
I did. And I actually had a friend of mine who's in politics forward this one to me. He's, anyways.
Yeah.
So
we haven't actually said what it is yet.
Yeah, it has gone beyond just the tech community, I think.
Yeah. So this is the first known death of a person that resulted from a ransomware attack. So even if indirect. So
right.
This is a major hospital in Dusseldorf in Germany that was the victim of a ransomware attack. Although it seems as if from the ransom note, the target wasn't the clinic so much as the associated university. But regardless,
right.
They had let's see, the quote was, "The cyber attack caused a failure of IT systems at Dusseldorf University Clinic, and a woman who needed urgent admission died after she had to be taken to another city for treatment." So, essentially, instead of allowing admission or, bringing her to the nearest hospital, that hospital was having troubles. They take her to presumably the next nearest hospital, but that takes, I think in the article, I didn't pull out this quote, but it, took an hour additional to get her there, and she wound up dying.
Right.
So, there wasn't a ton of data in here on like what the variant was of ransomware or anything along those lines. The key thing in this is that this is this is taking it from the digital to the physical. And then the main point I wanted to bring out on this was the hospital involved the police, and then so it says the Dusseldorf police contacted the attackers and told the criminals that the hospital, not the university, had been affected and endangered patients. The criminals then withdrew the extortion attempt and provided a digital key to decrypt the data. And they're no longer reachable, according to the Justice Minister's report. I'm mostly quoting here still. And that could be because Cologne prosecutors have officially launched a negligent homicide case, saying the hackers could be blamed. So, there's a big difference, presumably, in a civil, or I guess I'm not a lawyer. I don't treat civil or criminal from me, but a digital attack and a homicide investigation. So, I will hope, actually, I guess, that this will provide there will be more incentive for following up and, tracking down and extraditing or presuming that they're out of country and presuming that they're in a country that has extradition treaties, being able to, find and bring them to justice.
Exactly. Sadly, this will probably not be the last time something like this happens.
I'm sure it won't be, and yeah, it is not a good thing to know, but I'm sure it won't be. But yes, it says the first known death resulting from a ransomware attack. So, on
that note,
yeah, maybe I should have flipped my topics around so we ended on we went from fun from a less depressing subject. But all right, my friend, yes, tell me what did you bring me fun tonight?
So my something fun is I apparently follow the kind of people on Twitter who love Microsoft Flight Simulator.
I've seen a bunch of pictures.
I see a lot of Microsoft Flight Simulator in my Twitter feed. And I was not aware that this was something you could do, but apparently you can design and build a 3D model of your own airplane and use it in the Microsoft Flight Simulator software.
Okay.
I was unaware of this. Well, someone built the spaceship Serenity from the TV series Firefly.
Uh-huh.
And I suppose if you gave that person money, you too could fly Serenity in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And the link has a YouTube video of, it doesn't take off like it does in the TV show or the movie.
Sure.
Because it still has to follow
it thinks it's an
the
airplane.
General laws of physics on Earth. It's still a plane, but it's kind of cool that you're flying around, and if other airplane passes by you, they will see you flying by in Serenity.
Oh, wait, so in like a multiplayer thing?
Yeah. In Microsoft Flight Simulator, apparently
awesome.
It's global. You can see not only live air traffic and live weather and, the actual planet Earth, which we talked about the goof ups, like the 212-story building a couple weeks ago, but other airplanes of other players who are flying around as well. So there you go. That's my something fun. Watch the little video and you kind of see Serenity slowly take off, nothing like it does in the movie. But it's still fun.
So you probably can provide the 3D model, but you probably can't give it like other stats, not if it's a multiplayer game,
Right. You can't make it take off vertically.
Yeah. Or anything like that. And
stuff like that.
Bad thing for me is that if they're allowing you to load your own 3D models, then I can think of a number of ways that could be abused. And I wonder if anybody's doing content filtering on that. And if not, they will be, because people will abuse it.
I thought I had seen where that was the case, where you could see other people, but maybe if you load your own models, it's a one-person only game. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's okay. It's okay to not know. But yeah. I'll tell you another thing I saw might have been in a similar thread, was somebody flying a dragon.
There you go.
Which looked pretty cool. So
you got Serenity passing Puff the Magic Dragon at some point.
Yeah. That's cool. Okay. Well, I'm going through these boom or bust cycles because I'm like, oh gosh, did I do anything fun? And now this week I have like way too many things, and I want to at least mention a couple things before I get to my real something fun. Because the first one is like super basic, but it's a Twitter link of a guy. He's like, you can calculate the speed of light with a microwave and a bar of chocolate. Click that link.
I'm on the link.
You have to not have the rotating plate at the bottom of the microwave, obviously, because then it will distribute the rays. But basically, you can if the chocolate bar doesn't move, and I presume you have to be a little careful about how long. So it might take some chocolate experiments here, how long you could do it to basically raise the wave on the chocolate bar. But he points out you're seeing, basically he takes a tape measure and measures the distance between the destroyed parts of the chocolate bar from the microwaves, and that's half the wavelength because it's a trough. It's basically the wave passing through. You can't see my hands waving, or at least the listeners can't see my hands waving. So that's half of a wavelength. So it's basically 6 centimeters, at least in his picture. So the full wavelength is 12 centimeters from the start of the wave to the end. And by knowing the frequency that the microwave is at, you can then calculate the speed of light. And it's not exact, but it was like, I forget I don't have the link in front of me, but he was like calculated 2.84 or something like that. And the actual speed of light is like 2.99. But it's also like granularity of, centimeters. So I thought that was pretty cool. So check out that link.
Well, I unfortunately am scrolling down through the comments and stumbled across a video about how microwaving grapes makes plasma. So now I know what I'm watching after we're done.
Oh, there we go. Now you're done. So the funniest tweet or reply on that thread that I saw, at least, because he used a bar of Hershey's chocolate, and so somebody in there was like chocolate in quotes,
in air quotes,
in air quotes.
Every European is
yeah, exactly,
rolling their eyes at the reference of chocolate with Hershey's.
But that's funny. Okay, second little minor thing. I saw an announcement for Swift on Windows. So Swift is the language that Apple released for iOS and now Mac OS apps. And Apple is putting a lot of effort into Swift. It's a high-level language. It is still typed. It is compiled. It's not dynamic, but it's very flexible. And they are, this is their next, their primary language for writing apps in, used to be Objective-C. And they've had a partnership for a couple of years, or for a number of years, with IBM and for, I think, others to bring Swift for servers, but this is Swift for Windows. And I looked, there was a sample app. It was like a calculator app. I thumbed my way through the source. It wasn't very long. And I'm like, okay, it's legible. It's not how any Windows programmer would ever consider writing a Windows app. And none of Apple's frameworks are going to work on Windows. So, it's a little weird to think on that. But, basically, in order to get Swift to work there at all, they do have the base class library and everything else working. And, that's kind of cool. So I'm not sure what it will actually wind up being, but I'm sure that frameworks will show up for it. And I don't know, could be interesting. It's a cool language. I've not written a full app in it ever, but I've actually got an app kind of half baked from some work I was doing earlier in the summer. But that's kind of fun. And then so those were I at least have to mention them. And then my real something fun is a podcast called Timber Wars. So I'm on episode 5. I think I'm on 5 of 7. So I haven't finished this yet. But this is an Oregon kind of thing. But it's about the disputes, I'll say, in the late 80s and really throughout the early and mid 90s of forest logging in Oregon, and the fights over how to save the old growth forest and how to kind of balance, logging, resource extraction, let's say, with preservation. And so, this is something that's relatively close to me, at least, because I was in Oregon throughout this, although I wouldn't say I was a conscious human being. I was still very young. I was college and post-college in this, but I still wasn't paying a terrible lot of attention to the let's say the grand politics of the whole situation. But my wife was actually, her grad work is in forest ecology. And they mentioned the the H.J. Andrews Experimental Forest, which is on the Mackenzie River out east of Eugene, and that plays a part in the research that was done to sort of prove what old growth forests were and how they were how they grew, and how there were open questions that weren't answered in the 70s and 80s on how does a tree, in fact this is one of the coolest things, how does a tree survive for 1,000 years against its predators, which are insects, which can have multiple generations potentially every year, right? I mean, evolutionarily, how does that work? Because the timescales are just way too different. You'd think that the insects would be able to way out adapt because of the they could grow and change, and the tree's still the same tree and growing. And it has to do with symbiotic lichens and other aspects of the environment that work to help protect the tree, and that the tree isn't evolving, but other things in the environment are. But anyway, it's a cool podcast. Like I said, I haven't finished it yet, but I think it's totally worth listening to, and I'm sure I have a little bit of extra skin in the game, kind of from where I live and where I've spent a lot of my life. But I like this, and I'm really enjoying it. So there you go.
I added it to my podcast list. Something
fun.
It's good.
And it doesn't seem like it's all save the owl, cut the don't cut any forest, and it's not cut all the forest, save all the critters, which
right.
I'm not entirely sure where it's going to end, but anyway, it's totally worth listening. Go give it a listen.
I've added it to my to-do list.
All right. Next your next road trip you can listen to.
While I wait for the next Lady Astronaut's book to come out, and as soon as I finish reading The Rise and Fall of Dodo. So that's the book I'm in the middle of now.
The Neil Stevenson one?
Yes.
Oh, I like that one.
I'm 30% into it, so
okay.
Just started part 2.
All right, and you're waiting for the Lady Astronauts from
Libby. Yeah.
Okay.
It's 4 weeks away, so that'll be book 2. So okay. Yeah, I got time. I got my spare time thing to throw that in there and listen to that podcast. I think that would be interesting as well.
They're not very long. They're like 30-minute episodes.
Yeah.
So
it looks up my alley. So.
All right. Well, let's call it a show, Eric.
All right. Thanks, John.
You bet. Have a good night.
All right. Night. Bye.
Bye.